as promised, in 1080p. It's the peanut butter jelly time. Midterm, mid-season report cards. Soundtrack brought to you today by my new favorite playlist. I don't know if any of you guys watched the Umbrella Academy, but they had fantastic music throughout the 2 seasons. And on Spotify, they have an Umbrella Academy seasons 1 and 2 playlist. Totally awesome, cross-genre, cross-decade, fantastic playlist. I can't stop listening to it. Maxine Nightingale, right back where we started from. It's playing right now. You just missed Bobby Darin. All right, let's get it on. Good news. No F's this year. But we do have 2 D's. Now, I know what you're thinking. Double D's, that's nice. But not in this case. The Lake Show is 2-5. They went 1-2 in divisional play and have nearly a 100-point differential with 789.58 points scored for and 877.88 points against. They were 2-1 versus teams with losing records, and their next 3 games are combined 8-13. So there's a chance for the Lake Show to make up a little bit of ground here early in the second half of the season. Also at 2-5 are the Baltimore Dragons. So just, follow along. Lake Show 12, Dragons 11. Dragons also went 1-2 in divisional play. Have scored slightly more points than the Lake Show at 794.04 points for. They unfortunately have the most points scored against, with opposing teams dropping a total of 956.16 points on the Dragons. Prior to this week's win, the Dragons had lost 5 in a row. And guess what, folks? The 2-5 D teams square off this weekend, and what could be an early look into who wears the pink unicorn t-shirt at next year's draft. Nearly half the league, 5 teams total, arrive at the midway point carrying solid C's. All of these teams are 3-4, and for those keeping score at home, that's a total of 7 teams in the league below 500. Let's see. At the bottom of this 3-4 bottleneck are the Sheboygan Headbangers. The Headbangers have mustered a league low 763.86 points and a season. Of course, they did have a season high 130.2 points last week in a game that I can't seem to let go of. The Bangers were 1-2 in divisional play, and 2 of those games were very close. 1 win, 1 loss. So again, some hope for the Headbangers. Next up, or down, depending on your point of view, is Bathtub Gin. BTG jumped out to a 3-0 division record, dominating the Quahog division, and have proceeded to drop 4 in a row as they've turned ice cold. They've scored 805 points on the season, with 820.38 scored against. During this 4-game slide, 3 of the 4 games have losses. 3 of the 4 games were losses to teams with winning records. But like the Lake Show, the schedule does get easier for BTG. 3 of the next 4 games are versus teams with losing records. Next up, Pilot Lights at 857.28 have only been outscored by 3 teams. Just bad timing for the Lights here. Another team that went 1-2 in divisional play and has been 500 ever since. 3 of the next 4 also against teams with losing records. Pilot Lights are also kings of the waiver wire with 25 moves to date. I went back and forth between the Lights and this next 3 and 4 team, the Texas Rattlesnakes. The Lights have scored a few more points, about 20 or so, 857.28 to the Snakes, 836.34. But what have you done for me lately? The Snakes have won 2 in a row while the Lights dropped their last contest. The Rattlers also 1 and 2 in divisional play. I mentioned divisional because we do look at that as one of the tiebreakers, so fairly important to see what kind of start you got out to in that divisional play. So so I'm reading this, and last night when I was writing this, I was going back and forth between these two teams, and ultimately, the deal was that, like I said, the Lights had scored more points. The Rattlesnakes have won 2 in a row. But what I couldn't let go of was that the Rattlesnakes started a defense, the Ravens last week, who were on a bye. And that's really bad. So what I would like to do, in hindsight, is flip these two teams and put the Lights above the Rattlesnakes. But whatever. Now, what another coincidence. These two teams, the Rattlesnakes and the Lights, battle it out this week. So we'll let the game do the talking for these two teams, and we'll see who comes out on top. Cobra Kai is king of the 3 and 4s. Cobra opened up 0-3 in divisional play and has gone 3-1 since. Only 2 teams can top Cobra's 860.08 points. Again, just a case of bad timing here. Things don't get easier for Cobra, though, as the next 3 games are versus teams with winning records. They've combined for 14-7 record. So he's got some tough games coming up. Next up, the Killer Bees and their 4-3 record. So we're finally breaking into some winning teams. First up in the Bees is the Clash City Rockers. Rockers are 2-1 in divisional play and have scored 801.12 points, the lowest of any other teams with winning records. As a matter of fact, only 3 teams have scored less than the Rockers, and they are the worst 3 teams in the league. The remaining schedule for the Rockers is kind of a crapshoot. It's almost 50-50. They have 7 teams remaining. 3 of those 7 teams sport a winning record. So he's got, much like the rest of the season's gone, it's a 50-50 thing. All right, the St. Lucia Zooks, also 4-3, also went 2-1 in divisional play. They are the second highest scoring team in the league with 905.04 points. 2 of their next 3 games are against teams with winning records, so they really need to enter the second half of the season on a win streak before they get into that home stretch. There are 3 teams now that have reached the A level. Let's skip this one. My son Aiden would be very happy with his next selection. All right. There are 3 teams that have reached the A level in the league. Each are 5-2, and each are in first place in their respective divisions. First of the A's is Manbunga. Manbunga started 2-1 and has scored middle of the pack total points at 821.14, while having 722.76 scored against. Prior to this past week, the week 7 results, where the Dogs and Belichick yourself had 4 and 5 game win streaks respectively, went out and they lost their games. Now, Manbunga, with his 3 game win streak, is the hottest team in the Peanut Butter Jelly Time League. What else we got? Manbunga faces the Dogs this week in a battle of 2 top teams. But then after that, the next 4 games are against teams with losing records. So the schedule would seem to favor Mambunga in the Drunken Clam division as we move again into the second half of the season. 1, 3, 4, 5. All right, 2 left. Top 2 teams in the league. Next up, the Dogs. Again, 5-2. Again, 2-1 in divisional play. Again, middle of the pack scoring at 833.92. And again, outscoring opponents by almost 100 points with 740.06 points scored against. Both Mambunga and the Dogs have 1-game leads in their divisions. But 3 of the Dogs' next 4 games are with teams with winning records. The Pawtucket Brewers division could be a shootout between the Zooks and the Dogs. And top honors is Belichick yourself. Also started 2-1, like their A-grade partners, and have gone 3-1 since. Belichick is the league's top scorer with 939.28 points, outscoring opponents by 130 or so, with 810.6 points against. Belichick, 2 very tough weeks coming up, and then finish with 5 games versus teams with losing records. That said, they did lose last week to the 5-2 Mambunga, and then Dogs, and have the Dogs coming up in this 2-game stretch. So there you go. We got, let's talk about divisional records real quick. In the Quahog division, like I said, Belichick holds a 2-game lead. They are 5-2. What the hell did I do? Bathtub Gin, Drager, and I can't even read my own writing. It's so bad. Cobra. Jesus Christ, that's the worst. That's the worst handwriting ever. 3-4, and then Drager's 2-5. Pawtucket Brewers, a bit closer, 5-2 Dogs, have a 1-game lead over the 4-3 Zooks. Lights and Headbangers, 3 games out at 3-4. Drunken Clam, led by 5-2 Mambunga, with a 1-game lead over Clash City Rockers at 4-3. The Snakes, 3-4. The Lake Show, 2-5. 7 games ago, no team in any division more than 3 games out of first place. But that also a reminder that we have 7 teams that aren't even at 500. So get your popcorn ready. Here we go into the second half of the 2020 COVID version Peanut Butter Jelly Time League schedule. There you go. We got football in like fucking, I don't even know, 4 hours, 5 hours, something like that. All right, dudes. Have a great night. Have a great weekend. See you next week.